The success of any trade show depends on what you put into it. So you cannot expect just to show up and have it magic happen. There is a lot of prep involved before the show, during the show, and after the show. So that's it in a nutshell. Depends on how you look at that show, and what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it.
As in life. That's
As in
great.
life.
Jeff, what about you? What would you say about getting curious about a trade show?
Yeah, and Christina really encapsulated it with before, during, and after. I'm sure we'll get into that later. But I think a lot of it is from a marketing perspective, that's my background, is creating custom content for the type of person that will be at each type of show, right? Each show has a different theme and type of person and company that will be there. But yet I find a lot of times companies aren't creating content on their website, social media, YouTube, LinkedIn, all those places. It's more general. So we can talk about different types of content later.
Okay, that's great. Now I want to just, because I know we're going to be using this, talking about this video afterwards, I'm going to do a little test here now. So let's see. Let's see when we have, okay, so there's me speaking. Jeff, can you speak for a minute?
Sure, I can speak. Happy to speak. Here I am speaking, talking about coffee.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to highlight you, but let's see. Okay, well, oh, I know. I think it has to be who's ever over. This is, by the way, everybody, today's show is also going to be very meta. So for anyone watching, you know, we overthink and we think everything has to be perfect. And I have learned the best way to learn is by doing. So today is really about just jumping in. So I'm going to try this again. And I think I have to move you over here, Jeff, to get this to work.
Cool. Hey, I'm bigger. Awesome. Look at me. How huge I am.
There you go. There's Christina. Okay. Isn't this fun?
We're figuring it out.
So now I'll have to remember that when, let's see. So when I go back to here, okay. I think whoever has to
This is hilarious.
Oh my God. It'll be
like
our
musical
chairs.
Yeah, or that.
Well, we'll have some fun with this. Oh, and I do want to welcome, before we go, here is Mike Hicks. I was able to get in and able to chat. So anyone, let's give Mike Hicks, one of my favorite people in terms of how he just will give everything a try and jump in and try new things. He was a fan over on my on LinkedIn, and now he's here on YouTube. Thank you, Mike, for stopping by. So yes, and it is about sometimes testing out. And I will say this, the more you just keep doing something, the easier it gets. And that's what I've been finding about YouTube. It's something I've been wanting to invest more time in, because in manufacturing, it's so important as a place also to keep your videos that you may want to link to from your website. And we're going to talk a bit about that as well. Okay, let's also look at, I want to jump right into a stat, because this is something Jeff shared, and I think we can use this as a jumping off point too. Gardner, and this is not Gardner, this is Gartner.
Gardner
says that 72% of B2B buyers will do their research before talking with a salesperson. So let's take this stat. Jeff, since you posted that today, why don't you talk a little bit more about that, and anybody listening, that why this is important information to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially post-COVID, right? People are used to be doing their research online. It might be Friday night at 11 p.m. It might be a weekend or morning, or when your salesperson's busy. So they're doing their research. They're looking at the white papers and case studies and all those details, so that when they do reach out to their distributor, salesperson, whoever that might be, they're more informed, right? They've watched the videos, they've listened to the podcast, they're more comfortable and confident. So the good thing is that can shorten the sales cycle, but it also just means like they're just more informed. So we need to help them. And then lastly, with that, I always ask companies, hey, if 72% of buyers are doing their research, does your website and social and YouTube, like, does it have enough content, or are they going to your competitors? Yep. I find that a lot of manufacturing and industrial companies, sometimes some companies are more skimpy on the content. And so I've seen it be easy for a smaller company to kind of leap over maybe a more established company because one of the reasons, because they have a lot more content.
And, you know, Jeff, I will add to that because I do a lot of research. And when I'm researching, it's amazing how many videos are very outdated or sometimes just not that good. But I look at how many views and I'm like, oh my goodness. So, and this is where, you know, I'm going to hold this up because this is something I know a lot of us do in this world. And hold on, let me overthink this, right? So a friend of mine sent me this. And one of the things that, you know, about deciding even to do specifically this on YouTube is that stop overthinking. And you know what? It was kind of fun because the more I have been diving into this, the more I'm learning and realizing that there is so much power in, you know, using video as another opportunity to get people to know who you are. So Christina, this tip in terms of the world you were in, and I guess I jumped ahead, but we wanted to jump into some tips. So maybe start with a little bit about who you are and your work that you do and kind of how that ties to trade shows as well.
So, hello everybody. I'm Christina Fuges. So I am the founding editor of MoldMaking Technology Magazine, and we are celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. Happy birthday to MMT. We have been around that long, and it's a very niche market within the grand manufacturing space. Over the years, as you probably know, we tell stories, we share technical information, we help technology suppliers and service suppliers educate our readers. That's what we're all about, whether that's sharing, like I said, stories to get to know our readers and suppliers or technical education. Out of that came a trade show. So they're very well connected. And as the content delivery, right, methods have changed over the years, that has greatly impacted what we do. What I really like about what you're saying and your whole theme about curious, it just makes me think like that's my job. Like anybody in media, you have to be curious, and it's simply about having conversations with people and listening. You know, and that's professionally, you know, and personally. You're just having conversations, listening to the other person, and a lot of times they don't think they have something to share, but they do have something to share, and we're there to help them tell their story, like you like to say, Gail. Whether that is through an article, a video conversation, these MMT chats that I started during COVID when we couldn't get out to shops or trade shows. It's also at trade shows. You know, we help them with marketing. We help them with, you know, booth ideas, technologies. We help them carve out the correct messaging or the correct products or product lines and services that fit our niche marketplace, which goes along with what Jeff was saying. To really hit that potential customer, you have to speak their language. And I agree that a lot of times people stay too general, and you have to really get specific, which comes back to having conversations, doing your research to know who your customer is. So I think I answered your question.
You did very well. And you did also make the connection between telling stories and, you know, how to then, as I say, tell and share those stories. And I think people can start to get their head wrapped around the telling part, but then it's the sharing that becomes very difficult. So I'm going to ask now Jeff to talk about the sharing part and first start with an introduction of who you are and your connection to why you're on this show today.
Yeah. How'd I get in here anyway?
How'd they let you in?
Yeah, who let him
I don't
in?
get kicked out. Yeah, I'm Jeff Long with True Focus Media. I started my company in 2003. So I'm a shade younger, I guess, business-wise there than Christina with 20 years. But hey, and so we're a marketing agency for manufacturing companies. So we do a lot of video marketing stuff, a lot of web design development stuff, and then just a lot of random, you know, clients will say, "Hey, Jeff, can you help us with this?" You know, their hair's on fire and they're trying to figure out a solution, and we help them with a solution. So as far as sharing, I love that question because you know, for the past 20 years, we've been making these videos, whether they're like high-end, awesome, knock your socks off videos or more simple, like just content pieces. Most people are like, hey, we need it on our website and social. And that's great, 100% there. but I'm more of I don't know. I try to look for different opportunities. So I'm like, okay, besides those few things, where else can we post content? So I have a list that part of one of our services, our video value bomb service, is giving them like 42, 45 different places to post and repost and share content. So let me just give a couple. One of them is a piece of real estate that I think everybody uses at least dozens of times a day, if not maybe hundreds of times a week. It's your email signature, right? Like, obviously we have, our website, our name or whatever, but like, what if you had a little blurb in there about, hey, check out our latest video value bomb, or we're going to be at, PT Expo, check it out, or, just something that, think of how many emails you send out a day times your employees. And it's amazing.
I do that.
Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah. I love it. You're one of the rare ones, which that's why you're yeah.
Jeff, that is a great connection back to curiosity, because some people think of exactly, okay, I'll post the video on YouTube, I'll post the video maybe on 3 places, but 40, wow. And you know what, you're right. Sometimes I have found this, sometimes it's the simplest things that hold us back. Like, we don't think about just, stepping up and getting those videos out. And I would say Twitter is a great place. Mm-hmm. And just a sidebar here, I'm going to do a little promo for Twitter, because that's where Christina and I really noticed Christina, because she showed up there and I was seeing some of her videos. And what I love most is that they weren't overproduced. They were just her sitting in her office doing a video, and it was short and to the point. And then when I met her, she's exactly the person that I saw on the video, which is also important.
True. That is true.
That is true. Yeah. So let's, Christina, we're talking a lot about trade shows. A lot of people are getting ready for trade shows, and I'm going to connect the dots here and just say, for anybody watching now, like, they may say, well, I don't really go to trade shows. I don't do trade shows. If you're going to any event, you're doing any event, you have a new product, you have something that you're doing, everything we're talking about today can be applied. And it also, like transferable skills, whatever we're talking about today can be applied to so many things. And video is not going away. Video is only going to become more and more popular. People want to listen on the go, because sometimes you can even only listen to audio. You can watch it. I know I'm starting now, like, I'm traveling in the car and I want to listen. I've listened to the replays of live shows from my vehicle. So
yeah,
it matters. Before I go on, I know there's a couple of comments here, which is great. We had Mike's, and then we have, none other than Marketing Metal, and that's Emily. Hello, Emily. And she says, messaging and specificity is so important. And yes, email signatures, prime real estate. I want to stop and do a shout out to Emily, because Emily, I heard actually a video clip from Damon and Kurt's show. Emily was talking about 3 tips to show up in manufacturing marketing. And then I used that to create a YouTube short and a TikTok. And those are, you want to be memorable, noticeable, and shareable. Emily, that was brilliant. So I want to give you credit for that, because I ran with it. I tried to give it credit as well, but I think those are 3 tips that we all need to carry with us as we're planning for trade shows. So memorable, noticeable, and shareable. Let's talk a little bit about that. In terms of Christina, why don't you maybe talk a little bit about being memorable, noticeable, and shareable, and why those are great tips for, let me see again. There we go. This is fun. It's like puzzle pieces.
It is like puzzle pieces.
We're live, baby. We're live.
I'm getting dizzy from getting moved around too much.
Anybody watching going, oh my God, what's she doing next? So stay tuned, people. We're gonna condense this down the road too, right, Jeff?
Yeah. So good.
You're cracking me up. All right. So is it being memorable at a trade show? Is that what you're?
Well, I think anything memorable, noticeable, shareable, and how that relates to maybe to a trade show, and also to what you do in terms of trade publication, And we've seen it where, being memorable, that can be, and again, it can be sometimes simpler than what everybody realizes, because you don't, yes, you can have the super cool trade show booth. That's great.
Yep. Right.
But being memorable can be dropping a quick video clip sometimes, or, talking with someone else and posting it. So maybe just from your experience, if you have any other thoughts on how to be memorable.
Again, I'm going to go back to conversations, and it does include trade shows. And goes back to you saying, don't overthink it. When there are exhibitors and even attendees, because let's face it, in my world, attendees are mold builders, right? They're at trade shows looking for technology and services that they contract out, but they're also selling themselves. There are people coming to our show looking for tooling vendors. So it's kind of a unique space. So both parts of that trade show equation are there they want to be memorable, and they want to stand out, and they want to make connections. But the key, I think, is always to think about who you're talking to in that conversation. And people have to get used to asking questions, maybe even stopping and taking a photo, doing a formal video with your phone. I mean, I'm seeing that happen more and more on trade show floors, where people will just stop and post that using the appropriate show hashtags and getting it out there right away to kind of circulate that, hey, my shop or my business, we're here, we're out, right? We're out and about here, learning and networking, connecting, taking advantage of new business opportunities. And that's not going to happen if you don't put yourself out there and be memorable. It's also, I think, important, and I think it's what Emily said down there, I really can't say enough. And I don't think it's just my specific niche marketplace, but I can't say enough about being specific. When you're trying to make yourself memorable to a potential customer, you really do have to know that customer. So having a technology you're focusing on at your booth will say, when we're doing a lot of our pre-show coverage, we do a lot of work with the exhibitors to not just take a standard PR that they put out to everybody. We really want them to look at who's coming to the show, find their current pain points, and find that product, service, or product line that's going to answer that. And that's what you should be marketing, and that's what you should be bringing to the show, and base maybe your show around that particular pain point and challenge. And that will make you memorable. So it really is going way back to what you said in the beginning, getting to know and doing your homework. That's what's going to make you memorable, whether it's an article or it's a booth, it's a trade show theme or a booth giveaway. Like, really think about who you're directing that to.
Love that. So that is a great way about being memorable. Now we're going to go over to Jeff and talk about kind of the combination of being noticeable and shareable. Let's look at that, because that's kind of would go over to yourself, and also what you and I will be. We've started talking about how we can help each other, right? Do those things from and make trade shows and people at trade shows noticeable and shareable.
Yeah, and so to piggyback off what Christina said, is that customized content based on the show, right? Like, what's the topic of the show? Who's going to be there? What do they want to know? I'm always amazed when I walk. I try to go to some local trade shows, and I walk up and I just try to engage people. I'm not trying to sell anything. I just want to talk. And usually they don't ask me any questions, and they just verbally, just gush on me. And I'm like, well, I'm actually not, an ideal customer of yours at all, right? But that's nice to know what you just dumped on me, So I think that's one thing, as we've been talking about, is like, ask good questions, listen, customize your message to them. And so with, video content, that's, one of my expertise is create these video content. I mean, we all have, phones with awesome cameras, and there's ways to create video content. And then, like Christina said, like, upload that, put the show tags and all those things. You get this momentum, the snowball of momentum that gets bigger as it rolls down the hill. And it does create this buzz and FOMO and all these things that are important these days, right? You want to showcase what you're doing and show that excitement, so that when somebody goes to your website or social or YouTube, it has that content on that at the show, and it shows that you're more engaged and kind of talking about what the customer is wanting to talk about.
So, and we've talked about this. What else can people do? We've talked a little bit. Okay, so preparation prior to a show. And then the next piece of the puzzle, so the preparing can be getting some things out on your social media, doing this. So now you're at the show, Jeff, and I know you have some experience in this area, as do I, but I want you to, if you can talk about what's important about once you're on the showroom floor, what can you do when it comes to video?
So there is a natural curiosity, a phenomenon that happens when I bring my video camera, tripod, professional stuff. I set it up. It's not even like the full rig, the full thing. It's just like our travel gear. People notice, right? All eyes kind of like look over, like, what's that booth doing, right? So I think when we're talking about generating buzz and attention, I mean, hire a local production company or whatever, and have them do some video interviews of people at your booth, or the trade show organizers, or people that are walking in, and ask them questions. And like, there's some natural excitement that happens when you're creating video content, whether it's on your phone or more professionally based.
Jeff, that's great. And I want to, this was I was listening to a podcast and doing some research about trade shows. And one of the things that often gets either forgotten about, ignored, or even removed from a budget is having marketing people on site, having someone who's not the salesperson, because often in manufacturing, the salespeople, let's just say, come from an engineering background. And I think, there is a propensity in the engineer world to always not love the idea of being on video and stepping out into the spotlight, unless maybe you're like a J. Call background, right? But by the way, for anybody not checking out J. Call, I strongly encourage you to go over on LinkedIn, follow J. Call, see what he's doing, because he is a machine when it comes to everything we're talking about today. He'd be the poster child for using, showing up on trade shows and showing up online. So let's talk about, and okay, this is full disclosure. I am a marketer. I work in manufacturing, but this seems to be something that gets maybe overlooked. So Christina, how have you found, the role of marketing in what's happening in your world, and what works, what doesn't work, and what would you say to manufacturers when it comes to getting help?
Yep. Oh, I was going to interrupt you to bring this up. So thank you for bringing it up. I am still amazed at the opportunities that, like, Gardner Business Media, it's probably not just us, trade media presents and offers that it's not leveraged. So I'll be at a trade show, and last year at our show, we created an MMT studio. So these videos that I do remotely, we're doing them live. Throw it out to people to invite them, right? There's a buzz about it. After the show, well, why wasn't I picked? How did I get on that show? Which is the same thing as they'll read about another shop in the magazine or read an article. Well, how did they get that article? How did they get that press release in there? All you have to do is connect with us. That is as simple as that. Like, have a relationship with the trade media, because there's so much work that we put into the services we provide, whether it's an advertiser or a reader, an exhibitor, and an attendee. There's so much that we offer to you that is never really taken advantage of. From the pre-show, like if you're an exhibitor, I mean, I could probably, actually, I don't know if there's anything like show notes or something, links to the different services that we provide to help an exhibitor set up, right? And to promote. It's like, I feel like we provide everything. And a lot of times they don't take advantage of that, whether it's a showroom on the show website. Every exhibitor gets a showroom where they can fill it with all kinds of content and videos to help promote that. We promote. We're doing our email blast weekly, or as we get closer and closer, the frequency increases. Well, if you don't have the content up there, you're not going to look really good. When there's interviews going on, or there's in-booth demos, there's tech talks, all these different opportunities are going to happen at the show. They're pretty much open to anybody to at least inquire. We can never guarantee you'll be selected, but you got to get in the game. So I really encourage people to start a relationship with the publications, the brands that that are relevant to you, to your space, and reach out on email or social media and just get the conversation started. And I swear the world will really, truly open up for you. It's not that hard. It really isn't.
And for those of you that aren't aware, so my background, and I refer to myself as a recovering journalist because I was a journalist in a past life. So one of the things when I'm working with clients, I understand exactly how media thinks. So this is a really, for anybody listening out there, because I've had this client say this, like, well, send a media release. I'm like, but what's the story? What is the angle, right? And sometimes they'll, just having an open house or having a new product isn't necessarily the story. It's like, how will the audience care? What will the readers of this magazine or this publication care about? And I know I did work with a client where I'd sent out a news release saying, because they were the only Canadian exhibitor, and I stressed that. And the whole theme of the booth was around, hockey and maple syrup and such, and Canadian beer. And what happened was they actually chose this company to interview them. One of only 3 interviews that they were doing prior to the show at the opening. And that all started with a news release. But it takes that knowledge of also how to write it, how to develop the angles that they were interested in. So yes,
I always tell people too, don't so much focus on selling as educating. So find that challenge or pain point of that prospect, that potential customer, current customer. Pick one and base a display, an article, a press release, a news release, a video just around that one thing.
Yes.
Education.
Sometimes people want to cover too much. And I know, Jeff, I want you to talk about that, about the niche and getting very specific. But before we do, I want to go to, we have some new people watching and listening. So welcome, everyone. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today on YouTube. This was a bit of a test, very meta, talking about encouraging more people to come over to YouTube. And the reason I'm stressing that I only chose to do it live here on YouTube is that it is about building a community, right, Tim Wilborn? So Tim is someone I just adore. He's an amazing person who is a YouTuber here and has like almost 50,000 subscribers, but
nice.
He's all in on YouTube and he is rocking it in terms of what he's doing. And again, I want to just stress for anyone tuning in, the reason it's not that you have to invest everything in YouTube, but it's a good place to get comfortable with and start to, put your videos here. So Jeff, remember that. I want to talk about that because a lot of people don't know what do they do with YouTube, right? What does it work? So Jeff, 2 things to come. Remind me what I asked you about. So, but let's go back to the comments. It was about niche, Jeff, and then why YouTube is important. Okay, so Inger's here. Inger, I met Inger through networking, connecting online. Neither one of us had a background. I had somewhat of a background in manufacture at that point, and she didn't. Now she's jumped in terms of from really working with manufacturers on networking and connecting. So you're not late, Inger. You're here, and she said this a little while ago. So she's never too late. And then she also agrees. She says, yes, Christina, be specific always and speak to your ideal audience. That is so crucial about really narrowing down. And of course, my favorite word, curiosity. It really is. Curiosity, I believe, is such a great life skill. And I was at an event last night at the Epicenter, which is an innovation center connected to our university. And they had a banner and they had right at the top, creativity and curiosity. Yes. Love that. And then she said many hate video, including her, but if you're not doing it, you're missing out. Yeah, she often talks about that. So thanks, Inger, for stopping in. Inger actually does now, for someone who doesn't like video, she now does 2 live shows and she's doing a radio show, international radio show connected through South Africa. So again, an example of, how you can start expanding your network and you don't have to like it necessarily at first, but it gets easier. And if you don't, then you bring in people who do love video.
You know what, too? I was going to say as an example, there's a shop I know, a shout out to Zero Tolerance. I think it is his niece was working for him as a marketing assistant or intern, and she was younger and just was out in the shop. Now, it's not them on camera. I think it is now. But in the beginning, she just went out to the shop and saw a cool piece of metal being machined. And she posted that. And there it was born. To him, it was like no big deal. This is what I do every day. They are all over social media now, and it's grown into something bigger than just looking at that. I think he tells more stories around that work piece, but it started off with acknowledging what you do has meaning and can be actually a little exciting and sexy. Why not shoot it, a photo, a beautiful photo and video, and put it out there? So that's another example.
Shoot
Doesn't have to
it,
be your face.
shoot it. we gotta do a TikTok about that. Just do it, shoot it. I don't know. There's a song in here somewhere.
There's a quote. I can't remember the exact front of it, so I'm gonna tweak it. But what's average to us or what's normal to me is magical to you, right? Like, so what I think is okay, whatever. It's just metal. I'm doing my thing. The other people are like, oh my word, that's incredible, right? And so don't underestimate the value that you bring, that you have, that you can share with us. And Christina, I love that you talked about education. I think that's huge in marketing and sales. So like, how can we educate somebody, teach them, give them value? To me, that's the missing component in a lot of companies is the education piece.
And that's something you both do well in terms of education, sharing content, sharing ideas. And Christina, for sure, what you said is I have seen this so many times because I come from kind of outside, right? Outside of manufacturing, came in, especially in mold making. Often the response I get is, well, everybody does that or everybody knows that. I'm going, yeah, but not everybody is sharing it. So as soon as you share it, I won't get into it now, but I have a biscuit story that for anybody that knows me knows this. And it's all about, sometimes you just have to step into that spotlight and own your ideas. So thank you for that. Jeff, let's jump into two things before, and then we'll go back to the comments again. But one is about the importance of, being specific when you're doing a video, much like today's show. We're trying to really talk about trade shows and also then what? So what's the importance of being niche or specific in video?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways we could take this, but let me give you an example on the content, being specific with content, right? So it's easy to be like, here are my 27 tips to do blah, 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 right? But I've done some testing on LinkedIn and YouTube, more on the like YouTube shorts, right? So 58 seconds or shorter. And so before I was doing this testing, typically my videos were 2 to 3 minutes. So still short, but they would usually have 2 or 3 tips type of thing. Sometimes up to 5 if I'd be, going crazy. But what I've found is if I just make one simple video with one tip, typically it's under a minute long, I get the same amount or more views and comments than if I spend more time creating a longer video, giving more tips. So I'm kind of like, I think I'm going to go the easier way and do a shorter video with, and then with YouTube shorts, I'm getting, a lot more views and likes and all that good stuff compared to the longer version, the 2 to 3 minutes. So experiment with your own content, of course. So that's one type of kind of niching down is focusing on your content, give one tip or one strategy, whatever that is, versus multiples. The other thing is, know who you're talking to, right? So it's not just anybody in the world. It's even who in the company are you talking to? Is it the engineer? Is it the CEO or C-suite or whoever that might be? And let's create content for them that will kind of, perk their ears up because you're talking about, budgetary things in the finance department or more engineering, tolerance focused things for the engineers. So that's critical. And you'll get better results than trying to just shotgun approach and then nothing really lands. And you think, oh, well, that didn't work. Must be the video guy or must be the trade show because, we didn't focus. And so a lot of that is what I'd recommend.
Thanks, Jeff. That is really good tips. And I like what this ties back to what Christina said. If you're out on the shop floor, take that quick video and post it. And sometimes it's important. Take the quick video, post it, throw it up on Twitter, and then, take it and, you can use it if you're on some other platform, post it with a couple of comments and see what happens. And believe me, some of the simplest things will get the most reaction. And I have done this time and time again. And this is one of the things I've learned because as we talk about, I'm on pretty much all platforms. I test them out. I try different things. And one thing with TikTok I found, I I've edited some things thinking, oh, this is going to be so good. And then when I do just, something that's trending and kind of quick, and sometimes those also get a lot more attention.
Yep.
And, keep in mind that each platform also has a different audience. So I want to be really clear here that I'm not saying, oh, you should be on all platforms or you should be on Twitter. Because sometimes clients will say that to me because I'm so active on Twitter. Oh, I should be on Twitter. I go, well, no, you should be where your clients are. And you should also, if you're getting overwhelmed, pick one platform and do that well.
Yeah.
That's the best advice for anybody listening today that's struggling. And this is going to go to now the idea of we're going to go back to video and the corporate video approach, which is what I call where a manufacturer will often say, okay, I want to do a video. That's usually step one. And then they say, let's get quotes. Then they go get 3 quotes. And then the quote comes back at, it used to be 10,000. Usually it's more. This is the corporate video. And they come back, want all the bells and whistles, sit around a table. And I've seen this, and then they go, no, that's too much money. And then they do
Nothing. Yeah.
So doing nothing, I always say, is not the best strategy. It's probably better to step up and try something out. So in terms of that approach, Jeff, what have you found? Because you work in that world too.
Yeah.
So for someone, where's a good place to start? Someone's listening right now and they go, well, I've got my trade show. I've got everything booked. What next?
So I don't think it's an either or, right? Do we do high-end video or more simple on our phone video? And granted, I'm a video guy, but I've noticed patterns and trends, right? So I think there's a time and a place for like highly produced, awesome, professional, nearly perfect videos. But on the other side of the coin, I think it's becoming more and more critical, mandatory that you have content marketing pieces, right? That are more simple. It's the authenticity of the content that's more valuable, right? So there's some ahs because we all say it.
Yeah.
But as far as trade shows, we kind of started off this live stream with talking about content, before, during, and after the show. And so, I think that's hugely important too. And it doesn't have to be this high-end, tens of thousands of dollars production stuff that you can do. It's more simple stuff. And it's not like, hey, let's talk about ourselves for 20 minutes straight. The strategy that we have with our trade show TNT strategy is like, okay, yes, talk about yourself, but in a customer-centric way. Also, let's talk about who should come to the show. Also, let's talk about the show and the organizers. Let's try to promote them and thank them and just talk about them so that maybe next year other people will come to the show. Try to give more than take. So that's kind of my thought is like, how do you leverage the power of video in all these ways? Yes, you can do it in high-end things to have on your big flat screen TV, with the trade show booth. And think about the content that you can drip out before, during, and after on social, your website, all these other places. And then lastly, it's not just video, right? It's the articles, it's the podcasts, it's the, the little, quote graphics. So yeah, I'm a video guy, but like to me, it's all of these. It's not either or, it's and all of these types of outlets and platforms.
Thank you, Jeff, for that. And I do want to go to the comments because since we are live on YouTube, we want to acknowledge that there are people here in the comments doing a bit of networking, and I want to do a shout out. Now, this goes back. I know Emily said brilliant, just brilliant. I think that was in reference. We were talking about the media release and how to leverage your relationships with the trade media. And we also have now Brandon said great point. I'm not sure what that was referencing, but we
probably
did
for me,
say,
probably.
I think it was Jeff. I think it was you. You got to know Jeff's sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Canadian.
So apparently I say humor and human, and I don't say
human.
See, I say human, and my son thinks this is hilarious because I think I'm saying it right. And he says, say it again. And I say human. And he says, And I'm like,
Why do you say hilarious but not anyway? That's a whole
Yeah.
that's
different.
right.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, let's dig into that.
It's like I love it. So
That's
Jeff
funny.
and I had much good natured ribbing at a recent event we're at, and he is hilarious. The more I've got to know him, you may think him like he's all serious, but he is very, very funny. I really enjoy working alongside Jeff. So we have, look who's here. Another favorite, Greg Michio from Windbound. So sometimes what happens is people come on from their company pages on YouTube, but I know who's behind this. So Greg, welcome. And then Anger says, hey, Greg, good to see you here. So good to see you. I love to see. So we have some networking. And then he says, quick hitter. I think that was about doing those quick hits like the videos, which is great. And Greg asked a very good question. Will it be recorded? Yes. So this show will remain on my page, on my Gail Now, Curious Minds with Gail Now, on my YouTube page. And stay tuned. There'll probably be some highlights coming from it as well. So now that I've said that, got to make sure we follow up, right, Jeff? And she says, yes, the hockey rink in the booth and Maple Candies. Yes. So we had, that was with Cavalier Tool, and we did a hockey rink. It was such a fun, because the other part of it was, and this is where that memorable part, right, or a trade show. So one of the things when I was processing through only Canadian, and then the designer I work with, we were back and forth, and we were thinking, what's a really Canadian thing? Hockey. And then this is the brilliance of having a really good designer, is we created a whole booth that looked like a mini hockey rink, including the floor. The floor was like NHL style rink. And then we had designed all the rink boards to be promos of the company, but they looked like rink boards. So yeah. And
that's shooting high.
And the devil was in the details, because we had, I had arranged to get this Canadian beer, and they were twist off caps. Well, everybody in Germany was talking about these twist off caps. So it's funny, and there was a crowd around this booth, and there was no plastic parts in the booth. There was no tools. It was all, now here's the thing that, and I mean that in sense of they weren't showing, not that there's no plastics, if you know what I mean, but we don't want to go down that road, because plastics are good. Just, I realized when I said that, Christina.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I meant there were no like parts in there. So
got it.
Let's be clear. Plastics, and there's another show I have on my channel about fact or fiction about plastics. So for anybody, a little sidebar here, wants to learn more about the facts around plastics, which are only 1% of overall waste, by the way. I got to get that in there. So no, I meant that there was no plastic parts, not that no plastic. So yeah, see, this is how sometimes, I want to say this again too. Okay, I don't want to go off on a tirade, but this is how, can you imagine if someone took that, they could take that clip, post it and say, look what Gail said. So context matters, everybody. Context matters. So
yes,
we have more networking going back and forth, though. Great. Thank you, Greg, for stopping by, and for Emily, everybody that's taking part today. So, okay. So we've talked the other, because we're coming up to, well, pretty soon the hour. And I knew this would go by fast. So I do want everybody to know, make sure you're following Jeff and Christina, and we'll probably try to drop in some other links. Jeff Long, probably best place is LinkedIn, Christina, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Come over to Twitter. Jeff, come on over more to Twitter. Can't be everywhere. So I understand that. But okay, the other thing, since we are talking about being everywhere, YouTube can be used like what I'm using it today, which is a live show, encouraging interaction, encouraging people to comment and network here. But another way that YouTube can be used, so that people don't get too intimidated by like, well, I don't want to do this live show and have a whole, like what Gail's doing. Jeff, can you maybe talk about why YouTube is important, even if you don't want to have a live show?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could probably give a whole webinar on this. So let me, I mean, Google, obviously kind of a big search engine, right? Kind of a big deal. They own YouTube, right? So YouTube, I think TikTok disrupted this, but YouTube was the number kind of 2 search engine, and it's video based, of course. And so with those two, Google and YouTube, you have a really powerful 1-2 punch. So to me, it's like, why are you not putting video content on YouTube? It helps with some of your SEO. It helps with a myriad of other things. But yeah, it's not just a live stream platform. I mean, I know some clients of mine that put all their webinar content on it. Obviously, short form videos, 2 to 5 minutes, or even shorts, which YouTube has a thing called shorts that are 58 seconds or less. They're really pushing that to try to get market share back from TikTok. So that's kind of my big encouragement to companies. And I know some companies might think that's just for the kids these days, but like YouTube is promoting that, pushing that. So what type of content can you create? Again, this very short, one tip type of shorter content. Or you can chop up some of your other content, your webinars or other videos into these shorts. And like I said, I've seen a lot more views and comments and likes compared with longer content on YouTube. So it's definitely something that companies should be like having a big focus on if they're not already.
And let's see.
One more thing, if I can add.
Mm-hmm.
Even, a lot of times it's hard to think of like, okay, what content do we create, Jeff? I mean, we want to talk about our products, but you can only talk about that so long. So like 3 really simple things. And I talked about this on our session a couple weeks ago, Gail. Like, so elephants, unicorns, and coins. So really quick, elephants. What elephants in the room are there that you're not addressing? Is it the price, the tolerance, the delivery? What does your customer have in mind that maybe your company is too scared to talk about it? But if you do talk about it, you're going to gain their trust. You're going to be seen as that expert that does talk about the elephant in the room. Then unicorns. What are your top 20% of your content that's getting 80% of your results? Talk about those unicorns, that 20%. Create more content on that, videos, articles, podcasts. And then lastly, content coins. I have this coin here. There's always 2 sides to a coin. A lot of times we're talking about one aspect of a topic. What's the other side of the coin? Maybe it's the negative aspect. Maybe it's the con or the pro. So you can have a myriad of content just by thinking of the content coin. What's the other side that we're not talking about? So that's my super short summary of.
That's a good soundbite, Gail, right there. What he just said.
There we go.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, that is. And I will add one more thing about YouTube is also it is I call it a repository, a holding zone, a place. Okay, it can even be a dumping ground for your videos. That sounds very crass, but it is a place to put videos. And then, because we can get into this, but this is a whole other sidebar story, it would be about, you don't want to embed videos in your website. So the best way to do is when you're sharing the videos is share the link to the YouTube, and then it's not on your website. And now, yes, you don't own you have to be careful that where else do you have those videos, because you don't own everything that's on YouTube or on any social media channel, because all that you really own is whatever's on your website. So let me say this, your website is very important, but there's ways to save the videos in other ways. But definitely, if you have to send a link to a customer and you want to show them something, I've seen this, yes, you can transfer them the video, but if they need to use it for something, but if you just want them to watch something, send a link to your YouTube video that you've uploaded. And yeah, lots of potential here. You can do this, prior to a trade show, which could be, you could do a video saying, hey, come to visit us and, have interview someone from your sales team, and then post that on YouTube, and then send that out prior to the show, and do a little bit of a curiosity gap around.
Gail, go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, real quick. You can create a playlist in YouTube. So it could be the PT Expo playlist. Yeah. You share that out, email, newsletter, all that good stuff, email signature, and you could have a private playlist that maybe you only send to your customers or distributors. So maybe it's, setup, safety, install, whatever, that only they see because it's an unlisted playlist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Gail, I was going to say all of this in a nutshell gets people noticed. And when you get noticed is why Gardner came up with the Champion Circle, which is tied to Plastics Technology Expo, which you're a part of. We started noticing people like you, and actually not just people, not just manufacturing marketers. There were other exhibitors, there were other machine tool builders and other welding houses that were so, what's the word? They're just all over the place on social media. We identified them, we noticed them. They're industry thought leaders. We invited you. We brought you guys together. It's a win-win. We're helping promote you. You're helping promote us. I mean, so that's kind of coming full circle for Plastics Technology Expo, right?
That is very true. I remember when I got asked, I was like, whoa, me, right? And you're right. It was because I was just out there showing up and sharing. And the one thing that we talked about recently, so I'm going to do a little shout out here to the manufacturing champions, because this is a group that Jeff and I, that's how we really got to know each other a bit better recently, is that we had been a group through LinkedIn that was started. Initially, our name was the Manufacturing Mafia, but I guess they figured they need a bit of a rebrand if we're going to go public. So shout out again to Jake Hall and Chris Lukey, who kind of helped bring this group together. And then we just had our first in-person meeting, and wow, it was so powerful because it brought us all together. We got to meet each other, and I lost my train of thought here. Where was I going with this point now? Okay, it was about the power of building those connections, showing up. That was it. So I got in that group also, and I remember when Jake also tapped me on to come into the group. I was like, me? And I will say this: I'm going to make a statement, because Jeff and I are also now manufacturing influencers. And when I was at the event in the States, because I was the only Canadian, I did say that I was representing all of Canadian manufacturing.
Right.
So I'm owning that title.
Yeah, wow, no pressure.
unless someone tells me otherwise, right? Until more people need to stand up and say, "Hey, wait a minute, what are you doing here?" So, so we have So I'm going to post this because Emily says manufacturing champs. That's our hashtag. Please follow along, and there's lots over on LinkedIn. And Christina, we'll have to talk more because this might be an interesting story to talk about this group and what we're doing. And also, Jacob and I just did we did a quick fun video talking, because he's a champion as well.
Too, yep.
And we just did that video. Actually, Jeff did the video for that. I just remembered. We were packing up to leave from the Airbnb over in Michigan. And I said, okay, we need to get a video. So Jeff stepped up and took a video of us. So that was great. Wow. Well, we have so much more we could talk about, but we do need to wrap up. I'd like to keep it go to the top of the hour, because I know everybody's busy schedule. So very quickly, if you can say, how do you exercise your curious mind? Over to you, Christina.
Having conversations and listening. I'm sticking with that. That's how I get the information. It gets me motivated, gets me excited. Yeah.
Love it. Jeff?
Oh man, I got to follow up that. Similar, ditto. Also listening to problems, right? What problems are people talking about, and can I offer a solution or input or connect people together? And there's been a lot of magic that happens through that, like this conversation here.
Yep. And I will say, I exercise my curious mind by I love podcasts. I listen to a lot of them, and that's really a big part of, and Twitter. Twitter is definitely, I love Twitter, especially now that with some changes there, there's a lot more content, and I'm going to say it, there's less censorship there. So I'm seeing such a broader range of perspectives, and you know what? You don't have to agree with everything. And, I'll just say this. Sometimes you can disagree too without being disagreeable. You can still have different views.
There you go.
Okay, I'm just going to put you in the green room, and I'll be there in just a bit. I just want to do my sign off, and then I'll see you in the green room. Well, thanks everybody for coming out today and joining us here on this live show on YouTube. I'll drop some links and some content tips on how to reach both of the guests today. You can follow me just about anywhere as Gail Now, and I'm Gail Robertson on LinkedIn. If you go over to my LinkedIn, that's where you'll be able to best reach out to both Christina and Jeff. I strongly encourage you to do that. There's a great trade show coming up. And I'll be talking more about, too, my 3-step process, which is sign up, suit up, and show up. and the power that comes when you decide to show up. And I have the website there for PT Expo, because you'll be able to see some of myself and Christina there. And if you're going to be there, please make sure to say hello. Okay. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. As again, you can find me most places as Gail Now, and I look forward to seeing you on my next Curious Mind show. So make sure to subscribe on my channel here, because you'll get notified when I go live and about upcoming shows, because I talk about manufacturing, but I'll also be talking about some other upcoming shows. We're going to be talking about the media, mainstream media, what's happening in the world of journalism. And I may touch upon a few other topics of the day that we all need to maybe better understand and connect with. Okay, thanks everybody, and we'll see ya soon.